Being on My 600 Pound Life might look like a second chance, but nobody wants to live it. From childhood trauma to broken families, and a body that becomes your cage, this is a life built on pain, regret, and survival. And today we're going over every reason why it sucks to be born as a My 600 Pound Life patient. Imagine you were just born. You're brought home to a small house, a crying mom, a father who barely talks, and food sitting in every corner of the kitchen. You don't know it yet, but every argument, every silent dinner, every leftover meal will shape the rest of your life. You remember the first time food made the pain stop. The world was cruel, but a full plate made it quiet. Maybe it was your mother shoving a slice of cake into your hands after she yelled at you one too many times.
And my mom did not like cooking. So we would end up eating fast food like chicken and burger places and pizza.
Or perhaps it was the warmth of something to eat when the house felt cold and tense. Just like that, food wasn't just comfort back then. It was the one thing that made the fear a little quieter.
But when she died, my dad couldn't take care of all of us. So we went into foster care, and I was sad to be separated from my siblings.
It was love, safety, and control all rolled into something soft, salty, or sweet. Lisa McMillan, who first appeared in Season 8, Episode 12 of My 600 Pound Life, knew this pain all too well. When you see her on screen, it's impossible not to sense a childhood where affection was scarce, but food was always within reach.
I've struggled with my weight my entire life, and that started because food was comfort for me when life got hard. And there's been a lot of times I needed that because growing up, my father was an alcoholic.
You watch her reach for another helping, not because she's hungry, but because somewhere deep down, it soothes a wound no one can see.
When I was 8, my biological father still got to take me and my brother for visits on some weekends. Well, in the midst of another visit with him, one of my cousins, he was 19, and he molested me. I tried to tell everyone, and nobody believed me. But after that happened to me, all I cared about was eating and being left alone, so I kept gaining a lot.
However, on the other hand, Jean Covey's story, who first appeared in Season 7, Episode 9, hits a little differently. Behind her calm tone, you can sense years of hurt. She talks about how a difficult childhood shaped her eating habits, revealing how early pain can turn into lifelong struggle.
Ever since I was a child, I knew I could use food to escape whatever it was I was dealing with when things got really bad. And there were a lot of times when things got really bad because I had a really hard childhood growing up.
And with all these struggles, you imagine her trying to fill the emptiness, one candy bar at a time, until the world finally stopped noticing her.
I was constantly afraid growing up, and there were a lot of reasons for that. My mom and my dad were never married, and my dad wasn't a part of my life growing up. So to support us, my mom had to start working 2 jobs. And we moved in with my grandmother to have someone look after me while my mom was at work. But my grandmother was extremely abusive to me. She would spank me with metal coat hangers or extension cords. There's been times I had bruises from my neck all the way down. So I felt really unloved and unwanted. But I think my weight problem started with my grandmother because she was so mean and hateful, and I didn't have a way to get back at her except for stealing her sodas.
But Kelly Mason, just a little older, carries the scars of neglect differently. You watch her reach for food even when her stomach screams no. Somewhere along the way, she learned that craving equaled comfort, and comfort equaled safety.
When I grew up, I was raised by my grandparents in New Jersey. My mom, she traveled and she wasn't really around. And my dad, had another family.
It wasn't about hunger. It was about being seen, being held, being cared for in any way she could.
I would say I had a great childhood at that point. But when I was 5, my grandfather died in front of me. He had a heart attack. So when my grandfather died, everything just started going wrong. My grandmother moved into a senior citizens building where you couldn't have a kid living with you. So I saw her less and less, and I felt abandoned. And my only option was to go back and live with my mother.
And that's the tragedy of it all. Kelly didn't choose this life. She inherited it. Every bite was a reminder of what she never got: love, security, warmth. Her story shows that my 600-pound life isn't just about losing weight. It's about surviving a childhood that never let you feel small enough to be safe.
When I was 7, I was abused by an older neighborhood man. He just asked me to do things for him, like, go to the store or give him hugs and stuff like that. And I didn't think anything was wrong with it until one day he started putting his hands on me and just physical touching.
And while Kelly's pain showed in quiet endurance, Destiny Lachey's came out as a storm. Where Kelly internalized everything, Destiny fought back against her body, her past, and even herself. Both women were trapped inside the same invisible prison, but they faced it in completely opposite ways. With Destiny, that storm started early. Even as a child, she carried emotions too heavy for her age, feelings that never really went away.
I was born as a boy, and my mom named me Matthew. And right from the start, my life has been chaos. Because my mom was only 16 when she had me, and she wasn't ready. She was in a biracial relationship with my father. My mom's family was very racist. Because of that, none of her family was able to give her support. They basically disowned her.
And every time the hurt rose too high, the refrigerator became her friend, her enemy, and her lifeline all at once. You can feel the paradox. The same object that nurtured her also chained her to a reality she couldn't escape.
Over the next 2 years after I was born, my mom had my 2 brothers. But after that, my father left. So I had a teenage mom who was completely on her own, trying to raise 3 kids by herself. And all 3 of us ended up in foster care by the time I was 4. And my mom was forced to give up custody of us. But it was really hard on all of us.
It hurted me a lot to not be with her at all times. From birth, just not the family not liking you, and then having to be put in foster care, and then having a lot of issues going on growing up. I just always felt rejected. Never felt like I belonged anywhere.
By the time you're 20, your body is already a warning sign no one saw coming. Every pound gained was another message you sent to the world that screamed, "Look at me, I need help." And yet, you were ignored. The emotional scars had hardened into habits. Habits hardened into flesh. Flesh hardened into a cage you couldn't unlock. You start seeing the patterns. The cries in the night that went unanswered. The moments where love was traded for a snack. The way your hands became the only comfort you could grasp. You remember sneaking food when no one was watching. Not out of greed, but out of necessity. The world didn't care then, and somehow, you learned that it might never. Because it's never just about the weight. It's the unspoken history etched into your bones. You carry a bag of rejection and neglect with every step, every meal, every sip of soda that temporarily quiets the chaos inside. And the cruelest part is, you didn't choose this. Not truly. You were trapped by circumstance, by trauma, and a body that responded to a survival mechanism it could never unlearn. Over time, that emotional weight turns physical. The body becomes the map and a reflection of what's been carried inside for years. All that pain, every memory, every unspoken wound, eventually finds a home in the body. You wake up every day in a body that betrays you. The simple act of standing is a battle. Your legs, burdened by years of neglect and excess, tremble under your own weight. Each breath feels heavier than the last, making it a reminder that your body is a ticking clock, and its hands are moving relentlessly forward. And then, the body starts to break down in quieter, crueler ways. Sores form deep in the folds, where moisture never dries, and the skin breaks down faster than it can heal. The pain is constant, becoming a low, burning ache that never truly fades. You learn to live with it because there's no other choice. Even at rest, your body refuses to let go. Sleep doesn't bring peace either. The weight on your chest feels like a hand pressing down slowly, deliberately. This is obstructive sleep apnea, a condition where the walls of your throat collapse under the pressure, cutting off your airflow again and again throughout the night. Your brain jolts awake every few seconds, gasping for oxygen that it can't hold on to. With that, pain rules every movement. The swelling in your legs, the pressure in your knees, the deep ache in your back, they all merge into one unending noise. The floor feels miles away, and to walk into the bathroom feels like climbing Everest. And slowly, movement stops altogether.
Son of a... Ow! Ow! God help me!
Feel like you moved?
Yeah, but you're trying to kill me.
You live your entire life sitting down. You eat, sleep, and relieve yourself in the same spot. Not because you want to, but because your legs gave up long before you did. The bed becomes your world, the walls your prison. You depend on others for everything, from food to bathing, and even for the smallest piece of dignity. Each day chips away at your sense of self until you forget what independence ever felt like.
Never been to jail, but I feel like that's what I'm in, and it's horrible.
I've got to see him get on his feet. Otherwise, he's gonna die.
Trying to keep him on track, taking care of his daily needs, doing exercises daily, and keeping him on a diet.
James King, a patient from season 5 of My 600 Pound Life, started his journey at 791 pounds. His legs were ravaged by infection, ulceration, cellulitis, and constant swelling. He was hospitalized again and again, fighting sepsis, liver failure, and pain so severe he could barely move.
I don't feel like that I should have to be a caretaker to my dad because a father is supposed to protect and take care of his daughter.
Just in case.
But it's my dad, and I'm not gonna let him just lay there.
I can't breathe good.
You okay?
Ow!
I'm sorry.
Ow!
Sorry, try to get it in there.
It's very humiliating. Having my own child have to do this.
Despite Dr. Now's efforts, James passed away in 2020 from complications of obesity. His story became one of the show's harshest reminders of how quickly the body can fail. And in fan circles, stories circulate about toilets breaking in the doctor's office, an image that captures the crushing reality of what extreme obesity can do to the human body. But behind those shocking stories are people living that reality every single day. For many, bedpans and sponge baths are the only options left. The body becomes too heavy for independence, and humiliation seeps in where pride used to live. You can't hide from it. The smell, the sores, the dependence. Every gesture of help becomes another reminder of what you've lost. The physical realities of this life become brutal, unrelenting, and invisible to anyone who hasn't lived them. But for those who have, they aren't moments of shock. They're just normal. The everyday existence of a body that became both your home and your cage.
And now I'm not sure how big I am. All I know is I'm stuck in this bed every day. And I just feel like I'm this burden on my family that's waiting to die. Because I won't stop eating.
But even cages aren't built by one pair of hands. Behind every bite, every meal, every quiet moment of surrender, someone is standing nearby. Someone who loves you, fears you, or needs you too much to say no. And that's where the story widens. From one person's struggle to a whole network of silent accomplices. They say no one ends up at 600 pounds alone. And they're right, but not in the way people think. Because you don't get here from just eating too much. You get here from a lifetime of being. Fed food, Fed guilt, fed comfort. Your mother feeds you because that's the only way she knows how to love. Your partner feeds you because it's the only way they know how to keep you. Your children feed you because they've been taught that saying no will break you. And so, the cycle continues. Love measured in calories, affection served on a plate.
I've got you 6 eggs and about 5 or 6 pieces of sausage. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Mom, he really doesn't need that much, seriously.
That's what it takes to make him full.
I always feel guilty because we just keep giving food to him.
It looks good, baby.
When I tell him he doesn't need it, he'll get mad and he'll yell.
Just like James's family, Kalisa McMillan's daughters carried her meals to bed every day. Not because they wanted to watch her die, but because they couldn't bear to see her cry. When she later suffered a heart attack, her girls were the ones calling 911, weeping in the background of her story. The same daughters who'd spent their lives keeping her fed, comfortable, and alive.
So the priority right now is to run tests on her heart to see if it's even possible to take her into surgery.
And that was the same case for Jean Covey's mother, who couldn't stop bringing her food even after Dr. Now warned her multiple times not to. The house became a quiet battleground, with a mother terrified of watching her daughter starve and a daughter trapped by a love that felt more like surrender. Jean's story ended with her still bedridden, still unable to change because no one around her could.
But I'm hoping she and her mom realize how serious Jean's situation is and how quickly she's running out of time.
However, it's not always parents. Sometimes it's partners, the ones who say they'll do anything for you but still bring the drive-through bags home. And that was the case with Lee Sutton and Rena Kaiser, who fought in front of the producers, blaming each other for every bite and every slip-up.
Everything that goes wrong, you take out on me.
No, I don't.
Constantly take out on me.
I am not physical with you.
No, you drive me there.
There is nothing to drive a person to physical abuse.
You constantly put me down, tell me I'm low.
I tell you that?
Yeah.
Will you tell me on a daily basis how worthless I am?
They swore they wanted to lose weight, but neither could stop feeding the other. It was love turned toxic, affection turned into sabotage.
He's the pizza roll fan.
Let's see. Now, I also see a giant box of donuts. Who's eating that? I didn't even see that.
That's Herbert breakfast.
And I know that Herbert is not eating that by himself.
Yes, he is, because I'm pickier of donuts.
Okay, Lisa?
Has nothing to do with me.
This is going in the garbage tonight.
You may learn to depend on the people who hurt you most, not because you want to, but because they're the only ones who stay. The relationship becomes a kind of prison, padded with guilt and routine. Every spoonful becomes a peace offering. Every meal becomes an apology.
Put it back.
All I want is this to be not in the house.
And Dr. Now is not exempt, as he's also seen it all. The husband sneaking fast food through hospital doors. The mother hiding candy under the bed. The child crying as their parent begs for more food. Every confrontation looks the same. Shouting, tears, denial. He tells them the truth, blunt and cold.
I suggest you start taking things seriously, because you're just about out of chance at this point.
Okay, all right.
I'll see you both soon.
This is the part outsiders never understand. They see the patient as lazy, someone who chose this. But how do you choose differently when food was the only language your family ever spoke? When your comfort came from people handing you what you craved, not what you needed? They say you chose this, but you didn't choose to grow up in a house where dinner meant peace and refusal meant punishment. You didn't choose to have parents who used food to quiet their guilt. You didn't choose to have a body that became proof of everyone else's love and fear.
This is the junk you've been eating. This is why you're not losing any weight. Herbert is sneaking in junk food for you. And you two keep lying about it.
No.
How can we get through to you both that your time is up? You're going to die very soon.
By the time you've grown, choice doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like betrayal. If you stop eating, you hurt the people who've spent years feeding you. If you keep eating, you're killing yourself. Either way, someone loses. Destiny Lachey knew that feeling better than anyone. She wasn't just battling her body. She was battling everything that made her who she was. Depression, trauma, gender identity, family rejection, all of it mixed into a pain that food could briefly silence. Her journey showed what it means to want to change but still feel chained to the life that broke you.
So I was more alone than ever, and I felt like I had absolutely no one. So right before my mom got out of prison, she told me who my dad was, and I decided I wanted to meet him. And when I did,
he rejected me that day. He was on the phone with my mama saying, "This isn't my son. My son would want to play sports, and he doesn't look anything like me, so this isn't my son." And literally like a week later, they called me and told me he died.
I was devastated.
You know, when he passed away, it was just like, okay, I'm losing everybody else. I don't have nobody, didn't have anybody.
That's the illusion of choice. You don't eat because you want to. You eat because it's the only thing that's ever listened to. You eat because silence is worse. Because food doesn't yell, doesn't hit, doesn't leave. And by the time Dr. Now steps into your life, the damage becomes generational. You're not the only one who needs therapy. Your whole family does. But therapy doesn't make good television. Meals do. So, they film the dinners, the tears, the arguments in the kitchen, the loved ones begging you to try harder, while still feeding you the very thing that's killing you.
Without him, I'd be lost. Because I just can't do it on my own.
It's hard for her to walk, so I do the stuff that she wants me to do every day.
Your family becomes your nurse, your jailer, and your warden all at once. And in the quiet moments when the cameras shut off and the house goes still, you realize something cruel. No one in your life ever taught you how to live without food. Because for years, it was the only thing that listened, the only thing that never left. But sooner or later, even comfort becomes a death sentence. That's when reality reminds you of Dr. Now's name, and you finally make it to Houston, to a clinic you've seen 100 times on TV, the one place where miracles are supposed to happen. But when the camera pans to you, sweating and shaking on the scale, it doesn't feel like salvation. It feels like exposure. You stare at the digital number climbing, 620, 700, 780, and for a moment, you forget to breathe. Dr. Now Zarden doesn't flinch. He doesn't gasp. He's seen it all. Calories in, calories out. Protein, portion, control. He tells you to lose 50 to 100 pounds in a month before he'll even consider surgery. For most people, that sounds impossible. But for someone eating 10,000 calories a day, it's survival math. You nod, swearing you'll follow the plan. But the drive home is long, and old habits are louder than your promises. Penny Seeger was one of the first to test his patience. She weighed over 530 pounds, bedridden for years, for which Dr. Now told her to cut back, to stop relying on her husband for endless meals. But Penny had a way of turning logic into excuses. When she didn't lose weight, she said the scale was broken. When she didn't move, she said it was her lungs. And when Dr. Now confronted her, she resisted.
The miracle
Right now.
happening that you haven't lost any weight.
No, I've definitely lost weight.
Well, let's check your stomach, okay?
Keep in there. Oh, you don't want to go that
Betty,
low.
really, your belly doesn't look like you have lost anything.
Oh my God, I used to have a wad like this to take my needles, and now it's this.
Penny's not really making the changes that you wanted to make psychologically and cooperate and become a person that wants to get well.
She refused to walk, refused to believe, refused to even try. She gave the impression of how she wants to be helped, but only if she doesn't have to do anything for it. Her story became a warning that you can't fix what someone still denies. But for every patient who quits, there's one who tries and still loses everything. That was the story of Henry Foots, who was one of Dr. Now's earliest success stories. He started at 750 pounds, lost over 400, and even walked down the aisle after surgery, proud and reborn.
When I was 45, that's when I broke the 600 mark. Sometimes I just gorge myself, and it's still not enough.
But the show never tells you what happens after the cameras stop rolling. In 2013, Henry suffered a fatal heart attack while driving. The man who beat obesity but didn't survive its aftermath. Dr. Now often said Henry was one of his favorites, not because of the weight he lost, but because of the fight he showed. Henry's story proves something haunting. You can win the battle, but still lose the war your body started years ago. Then there's Lisa Fleming, whose story shocked even Dr. Now. Her weight had reached over 700 pounds. She couldn't get out of bed. Her daughter discovered maggots living in the folds of her skin, and that's when they called for help. Lisa was angry, defensive, full of pain, emotional and physical. When Dr. Now visited, he tried to help her move, to start the journey, but she refused again and again.
You're down here, we gave you all the help and the tool you need to lose weight. And you wasted half a year. This is unacceptable. You're not able to get up, you're not walking, and you're eating the same thing. You're not losing any weight. We give you time to change your eating habit, and what miracle are you expecting to happen? You keep doing the same thing and telling me the same thing.
All this is, I'd rather you just send me back to my house and leave me alone because this is not helping me. It's not helping me.
Her boyfriend cried with her while begging her to try. Dr. Now's voice stayed steady, but his patience frayed.
I feel like I failed myself. I failed my kids. I don't know how to fix it no more. I don't know how to fix it. Come on, baby. Send me back to my apartment. I don't want, just leave me alone.
I understand you need to go back home and eat whatever you want.
And in the end, she did slip away. Lisa passed in 2018, just months after her episode aired. Her story serving as one of the show's most painful reminders of what happens when the body gives up before the heart does. Not because she didn't want to live, but because wanting isn't always enough. And then there's Lee Sutton, the man who shared both love and destruction with his girlfriend Rena. Together, they weighed over 1,200 pounds. Together, they moved to Houston. But love isn't easy when both people are fighting the same addiction. They argued in parking lots. They hid food from each other. They blamed Dr. Now for being too harsh. Yet somehow, they pushed through. Lee lost more than 300 pounds. Lena lost 250. And for a moment, it looked like they escaped the cycle. But even after surgery, the addiction doesn't die. It just waits. Because months later, Rena revealed Lee had started regaining his weight, struggling again with old habits, proving that recovery isn't a finish line. It's a constant fight against the past.
I guess I'm eating the wrong things.
You think it's funny? You have a gastric bypass.
I had a gastric bypass,
to
yes.
lose weight.
To lose weight.
And you're not losing weight.
I don't eat a third what I ate
just
before I had
answer the
that
question,
surgery.
okay? Then
You're
we're not
asking
talking
me
about
questions that I don't understand no more than you understand.
What are you talking about? You're choosing to overeat and you think it's okay?
No, I don't think it's okay at all.
So what is going on?
I guess I'm not eating the right things.
But if Lee's battle was quiet, a slow surrender to old patterns, Shanae Murray's was loud, unyielding, and unapologetic, taking resistance to a new level. She began around 665 pounds, but her journey to a new life never really began. She grew increasingly defensive, skipping appointments, insisting Dr. Now was unfairly targeting her, and rejecting any suggestion that she wasn't trying.
You're still eating whatever you want whenever you want.
Not necessarily all the time.
All right, I don't think you're grasping how dangerous your situation is, Shanae.
She left the program, later claiming she had lost weight on her own, though no credible follow-up ever confirmed it. Her story became another reminder that denial is the strongest drug of all.
I think this is just another excuse because you know you have been overeating again, and you probably haven't lost any weight.
Yeah, I probably haven't lost weight. Yes, you're right. But I just literally got into this place. I haven't had time to start eating healthy. I haven't had time to do anything.
That is no excuse for you eating as much as you do.
I don't eat that much.
Dr. Now's clinic isn't a hospital. It's a mirror. Every patient who walks through the door has to look at what they've become, what they've lost, and what they're still clinging on to. He gives them the same plan, the same diet, the same chance. 1,200 calories a day. No sugar, no soda, no excuses. But walking through those doors is only the beginning. That mirror doesn't just reflect the problem, it exposes the fight that's still ahead. The surgery isn't a miracle, it's the reward. The real work is in the hunger, the withdrawal, the endless nights of craving something you're not allowed to have. And when patients cheat, Dr. Now always knows. You can lie to your family, to the cameras, to yourself, but not to the scale. The scale never lies.
But I still have water gain. And you tried to say, no, that is not fluid, but it is. I know my body. I've been in this body for 28 years.
Shanae, you've been in that body for 28 years, but I've been practicing medicine for twice that amount of time. And I know what I'm talking about. Your weight is not a result of water.
That's the brutal part of the process. Dr. Now isn't cruel. He's the reality that no one else around you will say out loud. When you live in a world that's been cushioning you in sympathy, his bluntness feels like violence. But to him, it's mercy. Because soft words don't save lives. Boundaries do. You see him sit across from patients who cry, who beg for one more chance, who promise they've changed, and every time he gives them that look, the look that says, "You've said this before." He's not heartless. He just knows what time costs. Every patient comes to him with the same dream. I just want to live. But living means giving up on the one thing that ever made you feel safe: food. Dr. Now's clinic isn't about teaching you how to eat. It's about teaching you how to let go. That's the truth the show rarely says out loud. The surgery isn't the end. It's a beginning. One that most never reach. Because losing weight doesn't erase trauma. It just strips it bare. You'll see them step off the scale, smaller but hollow, staring at the reflection as if waiting to feel different. But the reflection doesn't talk back. And without the food, the silence feels louder than ever. Dr. Now waits in his office, flipping through another chart, another patient, another case, another story that could go either way. He's seen the cycle so many times that he can predict the ending before it happens. Some will make it, most won't. Not because they didn't want it, but because change isn't about willpower. It's about breaking the only comfort you've ever known. And that's the cruel irony of it all. To save your life, you have to lose the thing that ever kept you alive in the first place. But when you do, even when the bounds finally fall away, you realize the story doesn't end there. Healing comes with its own kind of pain. You always thought the weight was the problem, that if you could just lose enough, everything else, the shame, the loneliness, the pain, all of that would fall away with it. But no one tells you that losing hundreds of pounds doesn't mean getting your life back. It just means starting over in a body that's been through that. You dream of standing up without gasping, of walking into a store without stares, of seeing yourself in the mirror and not flinching. And then one day, after months of diets, surgeries, and tears, you actually do. The number on the scale finally falls, Dr. Now smiles, just barely. You made it.
Fantastic, 2 pounds from the 300. So you effectively lost over 320 pounds at this point.
Great.
That's good progress for you.
Yeah.
All right, Kelly, I'm proud of your progress, okay? All right, can you tell that your ability to walk and...
But what comes next isn't freedom. It's survival. The skin doesn't shrink with you. It hangs, heavy and foreign, like a reminder of everything you used to be. You see it in the mirror, folds that trap sweat, infection, and memory. Every step you take, it pulls, rubs, and burns. The body you fought to reclaim becomes another battle, one against gravity itself. For many, this is the cruelest irony. You finally escape one prison, only to be trapped in another. The body heals slowly, but the mind doesn't forget. Years of emotional eating don't vanish with a gastric bypass. You still crave the comfort that food gave you, the quiet it brought to the noise. But now, your stomach can't take it. Every bite becomes nausea, pain, and vomiting. You're punished for the very habit that once kept you alive. You used food to survive pain. Now you're told to live without it. You remember Henry Foots, one of Dr. Now's earliest patients. His story didn't start with hope. It started with exhaustion. After years of carrying more than 750 pounds, he finally reached the breaking point and chose to fight for his life. Featured in My 600 Pound Life's very first season, Henry's journey became one of the show's earliest examples of just how far determination and heartbreak could go. It earned him praises from viewers who had been watching his progress. For a while, he was proof that it could be done. But what no one saw coming was how fragile recovery could be. After years of strain, his heart gave out. The episode ends with his smile frozen in memory, gentle, proud, unaware that he'd already paid the price for his second chance. Henry's death became a symbol of My 600 Pound Life's paradox, that even success comes with scars. He got his life back, but his body never truly forgave him. Gina Crassley's story came years later in season 8. She began her journey at 606 pounds, trapped in her home, relying on her wife and mother for nearly everything. Her story resonated with viewers, not just for her physical struggles, but for her emotional honesty. She talked openly about using food to cope with trauma and self-hatred.
He's in bad shape, and it's getting worse every day. And if I don't stop gaining and getting bigger, I'll die because I didn't stop eating. If I don't do anything now, it's just gonna get worse and I'm going to die. You know, my sister's getting married in a couple of months and she wants me to be in the wedding. But I'm too big to be able to get around.
She lost over 100 pounds on her own, determined to prove she could change. But after filming ended, Gina's health began to deteriorate. She developed a mysterious illness that caused severe leg pain and mobility loss, eventually leaving her bedridden once more. And this struggle ended in August 2021, as she died at just 30 years old, surrounded by her family. Her official cause of death was not disclosed, but her family confirmed that complications from her condition and years of obesity-related strain played a role. For fans of the show, Gina's death was devastating. She was on the right path to reclaim her life, but her body, like so many others, couldn't keep up with her will. Viewers felt the same, with the one saying, "Human organs aren't meant to handle that kind of workload." I almost wrote something snarky, but I imagine it's a brutal combination of mental illness and likely physical ailments that lead someone to reach that level. She once said she wanted to start a dance class for people of all sizes, to help them find confidence again. Unfortunately, she never got that chance. But Gina wasn't the only one. Kelly Mason was one of Dr. Now's favorites, and that's saying something. She weighed over 725 pounds when she arrived at his Houston clinic in season 7. But unlike most patients, Kelly came ready to fight. She followed the diet, attended therapy, and lost more than 300 pounds. Dr. Now even said she was one of his most dedicated patients. For months, she seemed unstoppable. She smiled more, moved more, even laughed again. You could see the hope in her eyes.
Working on it, and let's see what your weight is, and then we get you transferred to rehab, okay?
Okay.
All right.
But then, midway through filming, her health collapsed. Kelly suffered heart failure in her sleep and died in 2019, just before her 42nd birthday. Dr. Now announced her passing at the end of her episode with sadness in his eyes, a rare show of grief from a man who's seen too much of it.
Late last night, it appears Kelly's heart gave out. Okay, thank you. So I'm very saddened to hear this news. At Kelly's last appointment with me a few weeks ago,
Kelly's death hit differently because she had done everything right. She followed every rule, fought every urge, believed in every promise. She was living proof that change was possible until her body decided it was too late. The truth is, the human body isn't built to shed hundreds of pounds in a single year, at least not without consequences. The heart, the liver, the kidneys, they all pay the toll. Even success stories carry silent consequences like gallstones, organ stress, nutrient deficiencies, and mental relapse. The show rarely lingers on those parts, but the patients live them every day. The mirror becomes another battlefield. You look at yourself and don't recognize what's left. You lost the weight, but the body still feels wrong. It's smaller, weaker, emptier. You crave the fullness that once made you feel safe. Not the food itself, but the feeling it gave you. And that's when relapse begins to whisper. Even those who survive the surgeries often find themselves haunted by isolation. You lose friends who were once enablers, family who don't know how to interact anymore. Some marriages crumble under the pressure of change. The dynamics that once revolved around dependence collapse when independence returns. Freedom sometimes turns out to be lonely, because the truth is, the damage was never just physical. Trauma can't be cut away with a scalpel. Addiction doesn't just disappear when the stomach shrinks. And even when the weight is gone, the ghosts remain. Every insult, every childhood wound, every night you turned to food instead of someone who cared. You dreamed of being normal, of going outside without fear, of buying clothes that fit, of being seen as a person again. And for a moment, you almost had it. But the tragedy of my 600-pound life is that for many, normalcy comes too late. The body can't forget decades of damage. The heart can't undo years of stress. The skin doesn't just heal from the inside out. What you wanted wasn't impossible. It was just delayed beyond what your body could endure. You fought for a life you would never get to live. And yet, that fight still mattered. Because for every Henry, every Gina, every Kelly, there was a moment, however brief, when they believed they could make it. That belief is what my 600-pound life is really about. Not just survival, but the unbearable, beautiful cost of it. Because even after the body begins to heal, the mind doesn't know how to follow. You used food to survive pain. When you were a child, it was the only thing that made the yelling stop, the loneliness fade. A full plate meant safety, even if it only lasted a few minutes. But when the food disappears, the pain doesn't. It just waits for you under the surface. Penny Seeger was once addicted to being comforted, and that's what it really is. You miss feeling like something in the world could still make you feel full. For some, loneliness becomes unbearable. Destiny Lachey, the first openly transgender participant in my 600-pound life, lost over 500 pounds after the show. She shared her progress proudly, smiling in every post. But behind the camera, she was still fighting the same demons that had driven her to food in the first place. In 2022, at just 30 years old, she was gone. Her story became a heartbreaking reminder that losing the weight doesn't always mean healing the hurt. Depression can sneak back in like an old habit. You start avoiding mirrors because they show a body you don't recognize. Loose skin, scars, reminders of what used to be. You expect to feel light, but instead, you feel hollow. Relationships shift too. Family members who once took care of you start pulling away. And suddenly, you're alone in a world you worked so hard to rejoin. But you can't diet your way out of the memories that made you eat. So you find yourself staring at an empty plate, realizing the hunger was never in your stomach. It was in your life. Some patients find peace, others don't. The scale moves, the skin sags, and the past stays exactly where it always was. Under the surface, heavy as ever. You start to understand that recovery isn't about becoming thin. It's about learning to live with what's left behind. Because when the food is gone, all that's left is you. And for the first time, that has to be enough. But for every story that ends, another begins. Doctor now still waits in Houston, steady, unshaken, watching another soul walk through the door in search of hope. Each file he opens tells the same story in different handwriting. A slow collapse written in calories, pain, and denial. For most, it's not that simple. The body has become a cage, but it's also the only home you've ever known. You've spent years decorating it with routine, the meals, the shows, the soft light that hides the mirrors. But when the world asks you to imagine life beyond 600 pounds, it feels like being asked to picture another universe. The lucky ones leave lighter. They step into daylight and feel it on their skin for the first time in years. But even freedom comes with scars.
She was very abusive mentally and physically and verbally.
Okay, so how do you think we address that?
I think getting the weight loss surgery, I think that would help.
The unlucky never make it that far. Their names drift through online tributes. Lisa Fleming, James King, Kelly Mason, Gina Crassley, Destiny Lachey. Each one is a warning that the body can only forgive so much. The show ends, the cameras fade, but the reality keeps unfolding in hospital rooms and houses across the world. You start to see what it really means to live in a body that gave up before you did. Every breath is a negotiation. Every heartbeat is a coin toss. You used food to stay alive and it worked, until it didn't. Maybe that's the cruelest part. You didn't want luxury, or fame, or even attention. You just wanted to feel full of warmth, full of comfort, of anything that made the emptiness stop echoing. But the hunger was never just in your stomach. It was everywhere.
Finally be able to tell her. But the pain I had from everything was still there. I didn't really see any way to deal with that except with food.
So, the story ends where it always does. A quiet room, a steady beep. A doctor who's seen this too many times. Somewhere in Houston, Doctor now still stands at the edge of another story. Watching, waiting, hoping that this time, someone will make it through. Because for most of you, the ending is already written. Your body became your coffin, and all you ever wanted was to feel full.